This is Namikaze What Ifs, and welcome to What If Deku was the son of Hawks and Dabi. Now I'm still gonna have cause Dabi was Toya Todoroki, and he had red hair, blue eyes. So I'm just gonna give that to Izuku, and Izuku's fire will still be orange. Like he can really try hard if he wants blue fire like Endeavor, but that's what his fire is gonna be like. So when Hawks and Dabi are at a bar, and they both get drunk, and then they do the Devil's Tango, and then out pops is little baby Izuku. Dabi leaves, and Izuku never knows who his father is, and so he just leaves for Hawks to take care of the baby. And so when Izuku's growing up, he just basically is raised at Hawks Agency. When Hawks is on missions, her psychics take care of him. When she has interns, they meet Izuku and work studies. And so that's where basically Izuku grows up. And we go to when Izuku's in preschool. He's on the playground, just on the swings, just staring up the sky, and he sees these birds just flying around. And he thinks they're super cool. That's when Bakugo looks up and just sees Deku. And he's like, what? And he says, you have wings. They're on fire. And Izuku's freaking out. He's panicking. And then he remembers, hey, if you're on fire, stop, drop, and roll. So he decides to do that on the mulch. The mulch instantly catches on fire. And, like, the teachers are panicking, everybody's panicking. And Izuku's just like, I want this to go out, go out, go out. And he starts to yell at the fire. And the fire just disappears. And Izuku's just like, what the heck? And he's scared. He's like, what? Huh? And the teacher is just like, I think your quirk awakened. And so they call Hawks. And they tell him, your son's quirk awakened, take him to the quirk doctor. And so later that day, Hawks takes Izuku to the quirk doctor. The quirk doctor says, young man, you have an extremely powerful quirk. Your quirk is called Phoenix Wings. So you basically have your mom's quirk, where you can control your feathers, like that, and fly. But along that, you can also ignite your wings on fire, which gives you a massive speed boost, as well as control your feathers with fire on them. And then once the feathers cut something, that you can like turn that instantly in flames. You can engulf it instantly. And this fire can only go out if you want it to go out. So basically, Izuku's fire is like the Amaterasu, where like it only goes out if the user that casts it wants it to go out. And Izuku's super happy. Like his mom's his favorite hero. But like after that, it's like all night, and he's like, oh my gosh, I can be like a great hero with this. And Hawks is just looking at her son, he's just like happy. He's like, wow, this kid is gonna be way stronger than me when he gets older. And so it's like, and she has this evil smile, like, I won't let that happen. And she basically says, I'm gonna train. So the next day, when Izuku goes in preschool, he tells everybody his quirk. Everybody's just like, oh my gosh, that's super awesome. Your quirk is amazing. And Bakugo's just like, yeah, your quirk is amazing. And this I'm gonna make Izuku and Bakugo like the bestest of friends. If you ever seen Hawks, Scrubs, and you've seen Turk and JD, that's what basically Izuku and Bakugo feel like. So later that day, Bakugo awakens his quirk, and everybody's like, that's super awesome, but Bakugo's just like, is it better than Deku's? And they're still gonna call each other Deku and Kajan just as nicknames. And so we jump to when they're in middle school. They're at their desks, and Izuku and Bakugo are gonna be pretty popular. Izuku's still gonna be a bit shy, but they're both gonna be pretty popular. Bakugo isn't that much of a, like, he isn't that mean. Like, he still gets easily mad, but he's not a bully. And his best friend is Izuku. That's when the teacher comes in with a stack of papers. And he throws them up in the air and says, I know, you don't have to take these. I know what you all want to be. You all want to be heroes. And they're all like, yeah, super happy, and they're activating a quirk. and Bakugo is like igniting explosions. Izuku's just sending flaming feathers around the room, and the teacher says, "Calm down, calm down." And it looks here we have two students that are planning on going to UA. And everybody knows who it is already. They don't even need to be told. And he says Suzuki Midoriya and Katsuki Bakugo. And it was just like, yeah, if anybody can get into UA, it's them two. They're the strongest in school. Bakugo just scoffs, and Izuku's just like, really, huh? And so later that day, Izuku's just like, hey, I want to fly home to school and see how fast I can go with my wings on fire. But it's like, it's illegal to use your quirk. So Izuku does that, and he goes under the bridge so he won't be seen. That's when the sludge villain comes out, and he just tries to attack Izuku. Each of the Trendle, like, he tries to send like a ropes, he tries to grab Izuku, but Izuku just cuts it off with one of his feather swords, and lights the sludge villain on fire. And he's just like, burn, burn, burn. Sludge villain starts boiling. He's screaming in agony. That's when All Might comes, and he's like, "Hi, I'm here to save the day." And he sees Deku burning the sludge villain, and he's just like, "What? No, stop that!" And Izuku stops. That's when he says, "Young man, you have an extremely powerful quirk. What you did back there was very good." And All Might just Detroit smashes the sludge villain. And Izuku's like, "Hey, thank you. Can I have your autograph?" And All Might's just like, "Yeah, sure." And then he's like, "Your quirk reminds me of somebody. The number 3 hero." And Izuku's like, "Oh yeah, she's my mom." And All Might's like, "Oh, that's amazing." And so All Might jumps away, but then Izuku flies up after him, like at astonishing speed, with his wings on fire. And All Might sees this, and he's just like, "What, huh?" And he's shocked, and he accidentally drops one of the bottles of the sludge villain. And Izuku asks him, "Hey, do you think I can become a number 1 hero?" All Might knows his time limit is about to time out, so he lands on top of the building, so does Izuku. And he's like, "Yeah, sure you can. With a quirk like that, your quirk is basically like Endeavor and Hawks." Izuku's just like, "Really?" And then All Might notices Izuku kind of looks like a Todoroki. The blue eyes, the red hair, and it's just like, I won't think of it. And then All Might transfer into small light form, coughing up blood. And Izuku's just like, "What, huh?" And he's like, "Are you a fake?" And All Might says, No. And then he sees All Might coughing up blood, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, are you okay? And he's like, "Did I cause this? Did I accidentally burn him?" And All Might's like, "This is because of an injury. I had it back a while. It's not a big deal." And Izuku nods, and he just flies away. And on his way back to his house, he hears an explosion. He zooms to the explosion and sees Bakugo. He doesn't even look to the heroes to see if they're doing anything or not. He doesn't even care about that, because Bakugo and Izuku are the best of friends. So Izuku runs in, and all the pieces of the sludge villain are cutting off Bakugo. He cuts some of his feathers and lights the sludge villain on fire. The sludge villain is scared of Deku after we did it to him, and he's like, "Stop it! And Izuku cools down his flames a bit. That way he won't kill him. He'll just get him off of Bakugo and treat. Then All Might comes. He sees this. He's like, "Oh my gosh, this young man's a hero." He's like, "Should I give my quirk to him? He's extremely powerful." And so, on the way back home, Bakugo is just like, "Hey, thanks, Deku, for that." And Izuku's like, "Yeah, no problem. You would do here just the same for me." And Bakugo's like, "Yeah." And so that's when All Might approaches them. He's like, "Young man, what you did back there was extremely heroic. I'd like to thank you." And Bakugo's just seeing All Might talk to Deku so casually, and he's just like, "What, huh?" And Izuku introduces Bakugo to All Might, and he says, "Oh, yes, hello there." And Bakugo's just like, "Hi." And then All Might says, "May I talk to young Midoriya in private?" And Bakugo's just like, "I guess." And so Bakugo heads to his house. He says goodbye to Deku. And then All Might asks Deku, "Hey." He tells Deku about his quirk. And he says, would you like to have my quirk? And Deku says, no. He says, I want to become a hero with my own power. Then All Might says, at least let me train you during the 10 months to UA. And Izuku just says, yeah, can Bakugo train with us as well? And maybe you can give his quirk to him. All Might says, maybe. I haven't seen him do any heroic things. Izuku's just like, trust me, he's good. All Might's like, I'll see while he's in UA. Izuku nods. And then Izuku tells Bakugo, he says, hey, All Might wants to train us at Dagobah Beach tomorrow morning. Bakugo's just like happy about this. And so the next morning, Izuku and Bakugo, they both go to Dagobah Beach. They see All Might there, and they're just like, hi All Might. And All Might's like, hello, as you know, I'll be training you today. And he says, first, clean up this beach. And so Izuku and Bakugo look all around. And they clean it up within 1 month. The reason why they cleaned it up that quickly was because, first, there's 2 of them. And Izuku can use his feathers to pick up more pieces of trash at once. And so All Might starts to train them in combat training and maybe make new moves. So Bakugo gets his Howitzer Impact and AP shot earlier he gets them during this training. But Bakugo also gets Feather Gauntlet. His Feather Gauntlet is basically where he puts his feathers around his hands or his feet, and he's able to shoot fire off of them. And he's like, hey, I'm basically Endeavor when I'm like this. And I'm almost like, yes. And so they go to the exam. Izuku gets first on the exam because he's no slouch when it comes to studying. Bakugo gets second, and then Ida does. And then they had the practical exam. Bakugo and Deku are not in the same exam room because they went to the same school. They didn't want 2 people to work together. And so when President Mike is counting down 3, 2, that's when Deku ignites his flames on fire. And because that gives him a massive speed boost. And everybody's just like, what? Huh? And so Deku just flies, and then President Mike says, 1. Deku flies out, and he's just shooting villains left and right. Everybody's just like, who is this kid? And the heroes are just like, what? How is this kid so powerful? He's using his feather gauntlets to blast fire. He's also using his feathers, the robots are far away to get those, and he's just destroying a ton of robots. And all heroes are like, who is this? And All Might's just sitting there with a smug smile on his face, just like, And then the 0 pointer comes. Izuku sees that, and he's like, I'll just ignore it. It's not worth any points. And then he hears a scream. He looks over and sees Uraraka trapped under the rubble. And he's like, nah. And so he sends a couple of feathers to pick up the rubble off of Uraraka. And so then he burns his wings as much as he can. He ignites them on fire. And then he goes up into the sky. And he comes down with a blazing kick, with his wings repelling him. Everybody's just like, what? And he kicks the robot in the face, and the robot's head just goes off. It doesn't have a massive dent like it did in Canon. It just goes completely off. It goes off. And so everybody's just like, wow, this kid is amazing. And so later, when they're done with the exam, Izuku and Bakugo are walking back home. They're just like, do you think you passed? And Bakugo's just like, yeah. Izuku's like, yeah, too. And so they wait for their acceptance letters, and a week later, the acceptance letter comes. And their parents throw them a party at Hawks' agency, and all the sidekicks are super happy because they raised Deku. And they're super happy. So we go to the first day of UA. Izuku and Bakugo are just going down to UA. Izuku's flying, and Bakugo's just walking. And that's when they see UA. And they go into the building, and then they see a person that's just like, hey, where's class 1A? And the person's just like, oh, it's down the hall to the left. There's a big sign on the door. You won't miss it. And Bakugo and Izuku are just like, thanks. But all that they know, this person was Mirio Togata. I don't know why I added that. But yeah. So they go down to the classroom and they walk in. Everybody just looks at them and they see him and they're just like, these are the most powerful students. These are them. And so everybody just walks up to them and they're like, hey, how you guys are so powerful. That was awesome what you did in the exam. And they're both like, huh? And then they're like, some of them are talking to Baku and they're just like, hey, you're so powerful. And some of them are talking to Izuku. Like, hey, you're so powerful. And they're both like, huh? And that's when Eraserhead comes in. He does like, you guys took 8 seconds to be quiet. And then he throws them the uniforms. He says, come down to testing ground beta. And Izuku and Bakugo just take the uniforms and walk down. While everybody's asking them, what about orientation? And Aizawa was like, I can do whatever I want with my class. And he says, and then he points to Izuku and Bakugo. He's just like, why can't you guys just be like those two? So while they're in the changing rooms, Izuku takes off his shirt, and Kirishima just looks at him. He's like, "Oh my gosh, you're super ripped. What's your workout routine?" And Izuku's just like, I just always been like this. I think it's part of my quirk or something." And then Kirishima's just like, "Oh, okay." Like, it's super manly. And then Izuku and Bakugo, and then Izuku sees Mineta peeping on the door through the hole. And he's mad. And so he sends a feather straight to Mineta's forehead. And it goes in just enough so it bleeds. And Mineta's scared. He's scared of his mind. And the girls see this, and they're also looking through the hole. The girls see this, and they're like, ooh. And so after that, they go down to the testing thingy. And Aizawa shows Suzuki the ball. He says, you got first on the exam, so throw the ball as far as you can using your quirk. Izuku nods. He does a feather gauntlet, and he lights the feathers on fire. Like, his fire doesn't burn him. He grabs the ball, and he chucks it as far as he can. Once he sees the ball, like, he sends some feathers shooting after it. And, like, once his feather senses the ball going down, he also senses it. So he uses the feathers to carry the ball as far as he can after that. And then Aizawa shows everybody the number. And the number says 1,355 meters. Everybody's just like, what? And so Bakugo goes, he gets a bit more than Canon. He gets 1,000 meters. Everybody else gets the same. And Todoroki's just staring at Deku. He's just like, what? How? This kid looks like he's from my family. He has the red hair, the blue eyes, and fire. And so, Izuku gets first, then Bakugo, then Todoroki, then Momo, then Ida. And after that, on the way back home, Izuku and Bakugo are walking, and then Todoroki approaches him. He talks to Deku, and he's just like, what's your last name? Izuku's just like, whatever Hawk's last name is. And so, Todoroki's just like, okay. And then he leaves. He's still suspicious about Deku. He's thinking, no, Todoroki doesn't leave. Sorry, Todoroki doesn't leave. He says, he doesn't ask Deku what his last name. He just says, are you my dad's secret love child? Like how he asked Izuku during the sports festival. And Izuku's just like, what? Huh? Who? And he asks, who's your dad? And Todoroki says, Endeavor. And Izuku's nerding out because he still loves Heroes. His mom is his favorite. And then All Might. And then Todoroki's like, so are you? And Izuku's like, I don't think so. My mom never told me. Like, I never really asked who my dad was. And he says, I can ask my mom when I get back home. And so, Todoroki says, okay. And so, when they're on the way back home, when Izuku go back home, the next day, they have the hero versus villains. The teams are the same. Well, no, it's not Izuku and Ochako versus Ida and Bakugo. It's the Izuku and Ochako versus Todoroki and Ida. Todoroki first tries to freeze the whole floor. Izuku's flying, but Ochako gets frozen, and he uses some fire to melt the ice. They go back home. They enter the building, and Izuku says, "I'll send a feather to go around because I can sense whatever my feather senses." And Ochako nods. He says, "Okay." And then he sees that the bomb is on the fourth floor. He tells Ochako, and he's like, "Here's the plan. So while I'm distracting those two, fighting them, I'll try to create as much fire to block their vision as possible, while you sneak around and touch the bomb." Ochako says, "Okay, that's a good plan. That's a good plan." But before they enter the fourth floor, Izuku asks Ochako, "Hey, can you make me weightless?" Ochako asks, "Why? Wouldn't I hinder you?" And Izuku says, "No, it can make me go faster, because I have my wings to move me, so I won't need to be able to touch the ground." Ochako says, "Okay." So she touches Deku, makes him weightless. And then Izuku goes into the room, and he starts fighting Ida and Bakugo. He's like, Bakugo is starting to push Deku a bit, but while Ida and Bakugo are tag teaming him, Izuku sends a secret feather with the villain tape, and he wraps the capture tape around Ida, and then he's just fighting Bakugo. That's when All Might just announces, "Heroes win!" And Bakugo and Ida are just like, "What? Huh?" But what? And then Izuku says, "Turn around," and that's when they see Ochako just touching the bomb, and it's just and Bakugo starts to get mad. He's like, "Oh, damn you, Deku!" And Ida's just like, "Oh my goodness, this kid is smart." And so after that, a week after that, they have regular classes, and then Aizawa tells them that they have to vote for class president. Everybody votes for Deku and Momo. So Deku's the class president, Momo's the vice president. And so the villains break in, but instead of Ida, who doing what he did, Izuku flies over them and just says, "It's the press. No need panic." And so the next day, Yazawa tells them, "We're heading to the USJ." And then everybody's like, "Oh, super happy." And so while they're on the bus heading to the USJ, they're in the hero costume. I'm just going to say they're in hero costumes. And when Izuku's in his hero costume, he looks exactly what he looks like in the picture. And so on the way to the USJ, Suyu is just going around asking people what their quirks are. Then she asks Deku. She's like, "Hey, what's your quirk? It reminds me of the third place hero." And so Izuku's like, "Yeah, that's my mom." Everybody's completely shocked by this except for Bakugo. And he's known Deku his whole life. He's met his mom multiple times. And she's like, "Oh, so who's your dad?" And Izuku's like, "I don't know." And they're like, "Oh, okay." And so, and Zuko tells them his quirk. He's like, "My quirk is called Phoenix Wings. I can control my feathers any way I want, and I can sense whatever my feather senses. I can also shoot fire out of my feathers and light my wings on fire. When I light my wings on fire, it gives me a massive speed boost. I can also light my feathers on fire. And whatever catches on fire from my fire, it won't go out until I want it to." But I have to focus to keep it on fire. If I get distracted, it goes out. I have to constantly say, "Keep it burning." And so "Oh, okay, that's a very powerful quirk." And then when they arrive to the USJ, Izuku senses something. He doesn't know what it is exactly, but he knows it's not that good. And that's when Kirishima says, "Oh my gosh, this place is amazing. They actually have fake villains here." Then everybody's like, "What? Huh?" And Izuku is like, "That's it." And then Aizawa's like, "Oh my goodness." And he tells Ida, "Go run to get the heroes. Go run and get All Might." Ida nods. And so everybody gets teleported everywhere. But Izuku sends a feather to get each and every person, because that's what Hawks did when he was trying to get at Burning Building. That's what she did. And so Izuku does, and he gets everybody outside of the USJ, except for him and Bakugo. Aizawa's on the floor, like, knocked out, so he also sends Aizawa out. That's when Kurogiri's just like, since he's like, no, that's when Shigaraki's just like, send the Nomu after them. That'll kill them. And so, before this, Bakugo and Deku were just like beating up everybody. And so Shigaraki's mad, and he says, send the Nomu at them. That's when Bakugo and Deku start fighting the Nomu. If you've ever seen Boruto in Sasuke versus Momoshiki, how like they had perfect teamwork and it looked awesome, that's basically what Bakugo and Deku are doing. And like Aizawa is looking through the door. He woke up and he's like just seeing them fight this creature that he doesn't know what it is. It's like, I will have a hard time with that. It will probably beat me. But he's like, these two are able to fight it. And so that's when All Might comes, and he sees Izuku and Bakugo just like beating up the Nomu. And he's like, maybe I should just let them do what they do. But if they get into a tight pickle, then I'll step in. And the whole time, the Nomu's been burning on fire. And that's when Izuku just says, Bakugo, get away from the Nomu, don't touch it. And Bakugo just says, yeah, okay. And so he jumps away from the Nomu. That's when Izuku just says, now, burn. And so the Nomu's just been like a smoldering heat, but now he's like, burn, incinerate. And now the Nomu's just burning, and gets turned into ashes. Shigaraki's just like super mad, and he tries to charge Deku, but that's when Kurogiri teleports everybody away. That's where I'm going to end it off. To get the next part, I'll probably just do it anyway, but I would like just like one like. And if I'm really new to this, so if you have any tips, I would really like it. So thank you. Bye.